September 2025. What began as a routine cycling trip to the Indonesian island of Batam would later become one of the most confusing incidents ever investigated by the Pedal Crimes Unit. A few cyclists from Singapore arrived on the island for what was supposed to be a simple weekend ride through the Riau Islands. To this day, it is still unclear how many there actually were. The planned route appeared straightforward: cross Batam, follow the famous Barelang bridges, return safely. At least, that was the original assumption. Within hours, witness statements became inconsistent. Navigation records raised further questions, and at some point during the operation, Timo B disappeared. To this day, investigators are still trying to reconstruct the exact sequence of events. This is Pedal Crimes. Case 04. Where is Timo B? 26th September 2025, 14:45 p.m. Harbourfront Ferry Terminal, Singapore. At first glance, the building appeared completely ordinary. Thousands of people passed through it every day. Tourists, workers, travellers, cyclists. Nothing seemed unusual. And yet behind the facade of this seemingly unremarkable terminal, the events surrounding the Batam Incident would quietly begin to unfold. Investigators now believe this was the last moment the situation could still have been prevented. Due to the limited quality of the original evidence material, Pedal Crimes initiated a full visual reconstruction of the Batam Incident. Using witness statements, GPS records, and partially usable footage, investigators attempted to recreate the sequence of events as accurately as possible. For this purpose, professional actors were employed to portray the individuals believed to have been involved. The following scenes are dramatized reconstructions based on the currently available evidence. As the investigation progressed, Pedal Crimes began collecting statements from individuals present at the terminal that morning. Several witnesses reported seeing the group shortly before departure. However, as investigators quickly discovered, the testimonies were often inconsistent.
Yes, I remember the cyclist leaving the terminal area. And shortly afterwards, I noticed several individuals walking behind them. At the time, it did not seem important. Now, I am no longer sure.
I did not really pay much attention because I was looking at my phone. But I am absolutely certain there were only 4 cyclists, not 5.
It was stormy and a lot of waves, and I think 90% of our passengers are from Batam.
Yes, I remember seeing several cyclists that morning. At first, nothing seemed unusual. They bought drinks, some appeared confident, others already looked slightly exhausted. One of them kept looking at his phone. Another was talking about bridges. At the time, I did not think much of it. Looking back now, maybe I should have.
jetzt nicht auf Verkehrsaufkommen. Die ganze Stange ablaufen müssen.
Ja, du wirst ja schwimmen. The ferry will be full in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's boarding now and last call
Yeah.
at the same time.
There's a hole in the ship.
Investigators later recovered several images from the ferry crossing between Singapore and Batam. One particular photograph quickly attracted attention. Despite the poor image quality and difficult lighting conditions, analysts believe the bicycle pointed here may have belonged to Timo B. To this day, however, no definitive confirmation exists.
Wir sind hier. Ja, so 360 Grad.
Investigators are still unable to explain why the cyclists chose to leave the terminal through the underground parking area instead of using the main exit. Several theories have since emerged. Was the decision intentional? Or was there perhaps something they were trying to avoid being seen with? To this day, no clear explanation has been established. Due to inconsistencies in the recovered recordings, investigators were unable to establish a precise timeline.
Wir sind losgefahren und ich habe mich umgedreht und sag so, wo ist eigentlich Lutz?
Ja, ihr war plötzlich
Keine
weg.
Ahnung, und dann sind wir zurückgekommen und dann warst du schon weg. Fehlt uns noch einer.
The exact location and timestamp of this footage remain unclear, as the material was reportedly recovered from a damaged disposal truck several days after the incident. Despite the poor image quality, investigators believe the individual seen here may be Timo B. For reasons still unknown, he appears to be surrounded by a large number of motorcycles. Authorities have so far been unable to explain the significance of this encounter. Investigators believe the group arrived at the Harris Resort in Batam somewhere during the afternoon. According to multiple witness statements, the cyclists may have spent the night there before continuing the operation the following morning. Unfortunately, most booking records and accommodation documents were later reported missing. This has made it difficult to verify exactly who checked in and who did not.
Yes, I remember a group of cyclists arriving that afternoon. They looked tired, confused, and unusually interested in cold drinks. I cannot confirm the exact number of people. At one point, I believe there were 4. Later, maybe 5. Everything happened very quickly.
Inside the resort, investigators were only able to reconstruct the confirmed movements of the group. After checking in, the cyclists appear to have proceeded toward the beach bar area. Authorities believe the purpose of this movement may have involved the consumption of alcoholic beverages, although this has never been officially confirmed. Investigators also recovered a photograph from the scene, which allegedly shows the shadow of Timo B. Experts remain divided on the authenticity of the image. Investigators believe additional traces of Timo B may have surfaced later that evening. One photograph allegedly shows him swimming in the hotel pool near the beach bar area. Despite extensive analysis, experts were unable to conclusively identify the individual in the image. A second piece of evidence originated from the mobile phone of a hotel guest. Unfortunately, the device stopped functioning during the recording process after being exposed to water, despite manufacturer claims that the phone was waterproof. The recovered footage, therefore, remains incomplete. Investigators were also unable to determine why several hotel employees gathered together shortly afterwards. To this day, authorities still do not know what was being discussed. And finally, investigators recovered a seemingly unrelated photograph of a pizza. While initially dismissed, analysts later suggested the image may accidentally contain the left arm of Timo B.
Aber nur die ersten 5 Minuten, dann I insist that we don't document the whole evening.
Okay, so the chicken breast change with the risotto? The chicken breast,
Yeah, but we have one chicken, right?
let me repeat the order.
Yes, I remember the group. They ordered pizza and beer, a lot of beer. At first, everything seemed normal, but as the evening continued, the conversations became louder and increasingly difficult to follow. I cannot confirm whether Timo B was present, but looking back now, it would not surprise me.
Although many details surrounding the first evening remain unclear, investigators believe the group stayed inside the resort area for the remainder of the night. Large portions of the timeline could never be fully reconstructed. What exactly was discussed over drinks, during dinner, or later near the billiard tables remains unknown. No verified footage of Timo B exists after this point. The following morning, the group would continue deeper into Batam, and with it, the investigation would enter an entirely new phase. Investigators later established that the group spent the night in apartment facilities similar to the ones seen here. Exactly how many individuals stayed there remains unclear. Several accommodation records were reportedly incomplete, while others could no longer be recovered during the investigation. According to the reconstructed timeline, the cyclists departed early the following morning, September 27, 2025, approximately 5:50 a.m. Authorities believe the group headed toward the first Baralang Bridge, most likely to observe the sunrise before traffic conditions intensified later that morning. Unfortunately, investigators were unable to locate any reliable eyewitnesses from the roadside businesses along the route. At that hour, nearly all shops were still closed. As a result, large parts of the group's early morning movements remain undocumented. Pedal Crimes was later able to locate 2 individuals, possibly a couple, who claimed to remember seeing the cycling group that morning. However, as with many witness accounts connected to the Batam incident, their statements differed significantly.
Yes, I remember them crossing the bridge very early in the morning. There were definitely 5 cyclists. One of them waved at us. They appeared calm.
No, I disagree. There were only 3 cyclists and nobody waved. Honestly, I am not even sure they were cyclists.
Based on the available evidence, investigators believe the group continued south along Batam's main coastal route. During this phase of the journey, the cyclists passed several residential areas. Unfortunately, Pedal Crimes was unable to identify or locate the individual highlighted here. Investigators would therefore like to appeal directly to the public. If you have any information regarding this person, please contact the Pedal Crimes editorial office. Even the smallest detail may prove significant. Further south, investigators encountered another mystery. The purpose of this apparent 1:10 scale replica of the Eiffel Tower remains unknown. Despite extensive research, no practical function could be established. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility that it was simply built because somebody thought it was a good idea. During the reconstruction, investigators also observed this group of runners. Whether their presence is connected to the case remains unclear. At present, no evidence suggests a direct link. However, investigators are not yet prepared to completely dismiss the possibility. Another unresolved question concerns the repeated road markings visible at regular intervals along the route. Examples include markings such as H plus 250. Their meaning remains unknown. Experts consulted by Pedal Crimes have so far failed to provide a satisfactory explanation. The investigation continues. This footage was recovered during the early stages of the investigation. Investigators spent considerable time examining the scene for possible traces of Timo B. Despite analyzing boats, buildings, shadows, and several unidentified objects near the shoreline, no conclusive evidence was found. The absence of Timo B in this recording remains one of the few aspects of the case that investigators currently agree upon. At approximately this point, investigators encountered a road marking bearing the word finish. Finish of what? To this day, nobody knows. Several theories have been proposed, including a sporting event, a construction project, or a failed attempt at urban planning. None could be verified. The location itself is believed to represent the southern turning point of the group's journey. Whether Timo B was present here remains unclear. No confirmed sightings exist.
Uiuiui, mein Rücken.
What investigators discovered next would raise even more questions. Not a witness, not a document, a coconut. The significance of the coconut remains unknown. Some experts believe it is unrelated to the case. Others are not yet prepared to rule it out. The investigation continues. Investigators later discovered a small road continuing straight ahead beyond the roundabout. Under normal circumstances, most cyclists would have followed the obvious route around it. However, investigators cannot rule out the possibility that Timo B missed the roundabout entirely. Several factors may have contributed to this: poor visibility, fatigue, momentary distraction. Some experts have even suggested rain or fog, despite no evidence that either was present at the time. The road ends only a few hundred meters later at the shoreline. What happened next remains unclear. One theory suggests Timo B may have accidentally entered the water. Another proposes he was recruited by a local fishing operation and forced to spend the remainder of his life at sea. At present, investigators consider both scenarios equally unlikely. Nevertheless, neither has been completely ruled out. Hidden behind a construction fence stood what appeared to be an ordinary house. Appearances, however, can be deceptive. Investigators were unable to establish who lived there, what happened there, or whether the occupants had ever heard of Timo B. As a result, the property remains of interest to the investigation. Investigators later identified two individuals fishing near the roadside. Both men were present at the time the group is believed to have passed through the area. Investigators briefly considered interviewing the fishermen. This idea was abandoned after it became apparent that both witnesses had spent the entire time looking away from the scene. While both individuals were present during the relevant time period, investigators concluded that their ability to observe events was severely limited by the fact that they were facing in the opposite direction. As a result, neither witness was able to provide any useful information regarding the whereabouts of Timo B. The investigation therefore continued without their assistance.
No, I was looking at the water.
Me too.
Throughout the investigation, authorities repeatedly reviewed footage showing large numbers of passing motorcycles. Initially, Investigators hoped one of these individuals might provide crucial information regarding the whereabouts of Timo B. Unfortunately, every available indication suggests the cyclists were completely ignored. As a result, investigators were forced to continue the reconstruction without assistance from the motorcycling community. Investigators first noticed the bottle while reviewing bridge crossing footage. Although it remained in plain sight for an extended period of time, nobody involved could later recall where it came from. Experts consulted by Pedal Crimes were unable to determine whether the object played any role in the events surrounding Timo B. Nevertheless, it has been retained as evidence. This footage appears to show two members of the group on the first Barelang Bridge. One individual is already stationary when a second cyclist arrives. What followed remains unknown. Investigators found no evidence of mechanical problems, navigational difficulties, or medical emergencies. The reason for the stop, therefore, remains unexplained.
Ich weiß nicht, wie es mit einem Treffen ist. Zur Not halt doch eher wieder im Van.
Two security guards were observed at the entrance to the hotel. At first glance, nothing appears unusual, and yet investigators were unable to establish what exactly they were looking at, what they were discussing, or whether they were aware of the presence of Timo B. As with many aspects of the Batam incident, the answers remain elusive. Investigators initially dismissed the motorcycle as unrelated. This assessment changed after reviewing the footage. The vehicle remained behind the cyclist for an unusually long period of time. No overt interaction occurred, no communication was observed, and yet questions remain. Coincidence cannot be excluded.
waren wir nicht. Definitiv nicht. Ah ja, stimmt. Und ich bin geradeaus gefahren. Ich bin gar nichts gefahren. Ah ja.
This recording was recovered during the later stages of the investigation. It appears to show a packet of Mentos and a section of retail shelving. Why this footage was recorded remains one of the enduring mysteries of the Batam incident. Several investigators have suggested it may have been accidental. Others remain unconvinced. Despite months of investigation, many questions remain unanswered. Who was Timo B? Was he ever part of the group? If so, where did he go? Investigators reviewed hundreds of photographs, hours of video footage, and numerous witness statements. The results were inconclusive. Several promising leads ultimately led nowhere. Others raised even more questions. To this day, no verified image of Timo B exists. No official records could be located. And yet, traces of his presence appear throughout the investigation. The Batam incident remains unresolved. If you have any information regarding the whereabouts of Timo B, please contact the Pedal Crimes Investigation Unit. Even the smallest detail may help bring this case to a conclusion. Until then, the search continues.